At 8:59 in the morning, a parent pulled into the driveway of a quiet daycare in Hopkins, Minnesota, to drop off her child, just like she had 100 times before. By 9:01, she was on the phone with 911, watching something no parent should ever have to witness. Inside that house, 6 children under the age of 5 were still in the basement. They had no idea what was happening 2 rooms away. They would walk out unharmed. 3 other people would not walk out at all. This is the story of the Hopkins daycare killings, a case that within hours would connect a quiet street in one Minnesota suburb to a quiet street in another, 20 miles apart. A case investigators are calling isolated. A case a community is calling unthinkable. Hopkins, Minnesota is the kind of place people describe using the same 3 words: quiet, safe, close-knit. A suburb of about 18,000 people, just southwest of Minneapolis. The kind of town where neighbors know each other's names, and nobody locks their doors out of fear. They just do it out of habit. On the 200 block of Tyler Avenue North, there's a house neighbors called the Garage House. Not because of anything sinister, because of a large decal covering the garage door, the kind of quirky detail that makes a house stand out on an otherwise ordinary street. Some neighbors in the hours after would admit they didn't even know it was a licensed daycare. It blended in, it was supposed to. That house was home to Brown Bear Child Care, a state-licensed in-home daycare, active since February 2019, licensed to care for up to 10 children, with no violations on record. It sat across from a park. It was, by every available account, an ordinary business run out of an ordinary home. Wednesday, August 12th started like any other day there. Parents began arriving to drop off their children before work. Inside, according to police, 6 children, all described as very, very young, were already in the home's basement, which served as the daycare's main entrance and play area. At around 9 o'clock in the morning, one more parent pulled up. According to Hopkins Police Chief Brent Johnson, that parent walked in on the attack already in progress. She didn't arrive after, she arrived during. She witnessed part of what was happening inside that home, and in that moment made the call that brought Hopkins police to the scene. There's no worse scenario than this, Chief Johnson would say later that day, where you drop off your child somewhere you think is safe, and you get that phone call. When Hopkins police arrived, they found 3 people dead inside the home. On an upper floor of the house, officers found a 41-year-old man, dead from what investigators determined was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In the basement, the same space that served as the daycare's entryway, the same space 6 young children had been in only moments earlier, officers found a 41-year-old woman and a 7-year-old girl. Both had been stabbed to death. Chief Johnson confirmed that a knife and a handgun were both recovered at the scene. Police say all 3 victims were members of the same family. Investigators would later confirm that the man and woman were partners who co-owned and operated the daycare together, and that the child who died was their daughter. The 6 other children inside the home at the time, all under the age of 5, according to police, were physically unharmed. Officers moved them out of the basement and reunited every one of them with their families that same morning. Chief Johnson, addressing reporters, did not hide how rare and how devastating this was for a town like Hopkins. This is a horrific, tragic situation for any community, especially here in Hopkins, where we don't see this type of crime. He said, "It's a rarity here in Hopkins, and the impact is felt not only here, but elsewhere. For every parent who has a child in a daycare setting, or anywhere where they don't have immediate control over their child." Multiple agencies responded to assist Hopkins police at the scene, including the Minnetonka and St. Louis Park Police Departments, and the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. At an 11:30 a.m. press conference, Hopkins Mayor Patrick Hanlon addressed the town directly. "We are all dealing with this information right now as a community," he said. Investigators at that point believed the incident to be isolated, a domestic tragedy contained to one family, with no ongoing danger to anyone else in Hopkins. What they didn't yet know, or weren't yet saying, was that the morning wasn't over. Just after 12:30 that afternoon, roughly 3 hours after Hopkins police had first been called to Tyler Avenue North, a second call came in, this time from Burnsville, a city about 20 miles to the south. A relative had gone to a home near the intersection of Maple Island Road and Joplin Avenue South. What they found inside was a 78-year-old woman dead. She had been stabbed. For a few hours, these looked like two separate tragedies happening in two separate towns on the same ordinary Wednesday. Then investigators started connecting the timeline, the relationships and the names on the record, and the two scenes became one story. Please, if you're watching up till this point, support this channel by liking and subscribing. Burnsville Police Chief Matt Smith and Hopkins Police Chief Johnson held a joint briefing that afternoon. Chief Johnson confirmed what investigators had pieced together. The 78-year-old woman killed in Burnsville was a close family relative of the man found dead in Hopkins. According to police, the man had been living with her at the Burnsville home at the time. Neither department disclosed the exact nature of the relationship, whether she was his mother, grandmother, or another relative, and as of this reporting, that detail has not been made public. What police did confirm is that property records for both addresses list the same last name across all four victims. Investigators have not yet determined exactly when the Burnsville woman was killed. That timeline, whether she died before the Hopkins attack, prompting it, or after, as part of the same continuing act, remains as of this recording, unresolved and under active investigation. What is confirmed? 3 homicides, 1 apparent suicide, 2 crime scenes, 1 family, 1 mourning. Of everything in this case, one detail stands apart. 6 children, none older than 5, were in that house when it happened, and every one of them walked out unharmed. They were in the basement, the entry level of the daycare, when the violence occurred elsewhere in the home. Officers moved quickly to get them out and reunited each child with their families that same morning. Chief Johnson was careful, in his public statements, to underscore that point again and again, that despite everything, despite the horror 2 rooms away, these 6 children were safe. Hopkins Mayor Hanlon confirmed that other daycares in the area stepped up in the hours that followed, offering emergency child care placements for the affected families starting the very next day, a small act of a community trying to hold itself together. For the parents of those 6 children, Wednesday morning became the day they got a phone call no parent wants, and then minutes or hours later, the relief of holding their child again. 2 truths that don't usually sit side by side. In the hours after, reporters from local outlets went door to door on Tyler Avenue North, and the reaction was almost uniform. Disbelief. One neighbor watching more than a dozen police vehicles line her street said she never imagined something like this could happen here. She hadn't even known the house behind hers operated as a daycare. Another neighbor, a mother of 2 herself, told a local reporter she found herself holding her own children closer that day, doing, in her words, what she could as a mother to keep them safe. That sentiment, the specific cold shock of a safe place turning out not to be, is one of the most consistent threads in how this community responded. Hopkins isn't a place known for violence. Residents said it themselves, unprompted, over and over. This doesn't happen here. But it did. As of this recording, several central facts remain unconfirmed or undisclosed by investigators. And it's important to be direct about the limits of what's publicly known. Police have not released the names of any of the 4 victims. Some names have circulated online and on lower credibility websites, but Hopkins Police, Burnsville Police, and every major regional outlet covering this case, the Star Tribune, NPR News, KSTP, and Fox 9, have explicitly stated that identities have not been officially confirmed and are not expected to be released for at least several days. Out of respect for that active investigation, and because this channel does not report unverified identifications, we are not using any name that has not been confirmed by law enforcement. No motive has been established. Investigators have given no public indication of what preceded this. No history of prior police calls to the home, no restraining orders, no public record of prior incidents have been reported by any outlet as of this recording. The exact method of the wife's stabbing death versus her daughter's has not been fully detailed by police, who have limited their public statements to confirming stab wounds for both mother and child, and a self-inflicted gunshot wound for the father. The precise relationship of the 78-year-old Burnsville victim to the family, and the exact timeline connecting her death to the events in Hopkins, remain under investigation. This case does not carry the standard true crime arc of arrest, charge, and trial. The person investigators believe responsible is deceased. What remains is an investigation working backward, trying to understand not who did this, but why. 3 deaths in Hopkins, 1 more in Burnsville, 6 children who walked out of a basement, and back into their parents' arms, no different than any other Wednesday morning had ever asked of them, until this one did. Hopkins Police Chief Brent Johnson said something in that first press conference that's worth sitting with. It describes every town, every daycare, every drop-off line in the country. The impact is felt not only here, but elsewhere, for every parent who has a child in a daycare setting, or anywhere where they don't have immediate control over their child. That's the part of this story that doesn't stay in Hopkins, Minnesota. That's the part that follows you home. This has been True Crime Uncovered. If new information is confirmed by investigators, the victims' identities, a motive, the full timeline connecting Hopkins and Burnsville, we will follow up. Subscribe to Behind the Case File for more true crime investigations covered with accuracy and respect.